Welcome to School Board Saturdays video cast 2. And this week I've been getting out into the community. We had a good meet and greet at the Duke and the Dagger, and a lot of the dialogue that I've been hearing is that people, middle class folk, right, working folk, they're concerned about how public education is serving them. The number one question I've been getting is, where's the money going? Everyone has been hearing that public education is a big drain on taxpayer dollars, and there's a lot of waste in terms of how public education uses its dollars. And I think it's important to understand how money works in public education. So this podcast is all about, where's the money go? Right now, the biggest drain on public education dollars is the voucher system. A voucher system that's slowly privatizing public education and moving taxpayer dollars into the hands of private institutions. Now, when I tell people about this, it's as though this is something that they were unaware of or haven't been informed of, and that's a school board problem. And I think it's safe to say that just as our state legislator has not been looking out for the interests of the middle class and working folk, I think it's also true that our school board hasn't been either. People need to know about what's happening to funding in public education. Because when we think about it, the biggest engine that drives that ability for one, people who are in the middle class to stay in the middle class, but also to get those people who want to move up in the middle class, to get them mobile and put them in a situation where they can move up into getting a good life for themselves and for their children. Public education is the most important engine we have for that, making that reality a realization for lots of folks. You could say that public education, it was a middle class agenda. It was beautiful. And the history of public education in this country is a fantastic story. My grandmother was a part of that. She became a teacher when, in this country, we only began to have a comprehensive K through 12 educational system at the beginning of the 20th century. And when she started teaching, there were about 10% or slightly less than 10% of the kids in this country actually graduated from high school. By the time she was done, that number had more than doubled. And she always told me, she's like, Christopher, you are so lucky. You're so lucky to be able to go to school. And I wasn't always the best student. She's like, Christopher, you got to get your marks up. Don't get in trouble when you go to school. I tried. But what was important to her was that they built an educational system in this country that was designed to get people into the middle class and designed to keep those people who are already part of the middle class in the middle class. Now, the fundamental threat from vouchers right now is a threat against that dream, that vision, that understanding that we want to get the most amount of people in this country an opportunity at the good life. Public education has always been a part of that dream. Now, what's happening right now? Well, we've got a state legislature that's run by business-minded people, and they're good people. They just don't understand anything about education, its history, its meaning, its value. And what happens with business-minded folk is that when they encounter a problem, they have the same solution. So when they encounter a problem in the public sphere, public education, we just have to privatize it. And that's what the voucher system is. It's a privatization of our public trust. And that's dangerous. And it's also misinformation because they call it a choice system. They want to give more choices to people. But that's not true. They're not giving us a choice of where our taxpayer dollars are going. They're just funneling them into private schools, private institutions. And they don't give us a choice in terms of how that happens, how it operates. We don't get to pick and choose where our tax dollars go. And when the shortage comes up from that funneling of taxpayer dollars into private education, we have to have property tax levies in our districts to make up for that money. Those funds just don't, get transferred from one institution to another, but they're taken out of the hands of a public trust and put in the hands of a private institution. So when we think about how this privatization initiative operates in the state of Wisconsin, it really is about thinking about how this voucher system works and how it creates a threat to the continuity of public education in this country. So it looks like this. So in simplest terms, what happens is that we create a pot of money, a pool of money, okay? Now, whatever's set for the biennium, that's a 2-year process by which they fund higher ed or public education, K through 12 education. Well, how it works now is that there's money that's allocated to the voucher system. And every year, that money is going up. And every year that the voucher system takes money out of public education and puts it in the hands of private institutions, that means the money that's left over for our public schools is decreasing every year. This is a big deal. Now, in this current biennium, that's about $83 million. $83 million. It's an $83 million transfer into private education. And this is just the beginning. It's going to increase. So where do we make up that money in our public school districts? Property tax levies. But they don't tell you what the property tax levy is made for. They just tell you that it's to go into education. But they don't tell you that it's making up for that money, that pool of money that's being transferred from the public into the private sphere. And for me, that's scary. And when I think about the mission of public education, this is the number one problem we're facing right now. This is not a choice. The property tax levies will happen, or we're just going to cut from public education. And what's happening is we're on a trajectory that's going to turn public education private. And that's just not a threat to teachers, professionals, and educators who have given their lives to public education. That's a threat to middle class and working class folks who want to have their share of the pie. So this is podcast 2. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I believe that these things are fairly simple once you get your heads around how these things are operating. Information is key, and our school board has to make that information available to us. So thanks for listening. We'll be going out into the community, taking questions and answers, and try to make this more of a dynamic place where we can exchange ideas, where you get to know me, what I'm about, what I want to do in the school board, and not just that I value education, but that I've got an agenda that I think is meaningful for our people in this district, so they can see that public education dollars are working for them. Thank you.